So, how is color defined? Color is defined by having three qualities. Color has hue. It has value. Uh-oh, there's value. We just went over value. Isn't that a coincidence? And it also has intensity. So it has these three definitions. So if you ever think of color, always think of the hue. The hue being what range of color is it? Is it red? Is it orange? You know, going back to the visible light we see. Then you have value. Well, is a color very dark? Is it a very dark shade of red or blue, or is it a very light thing? And then you have something that's very, very important is intensity. Intensity pretty much is it's also known as saturation. It's how vibrant or how strong a color is. Intensity. So here we have like an orange or a reddish, I guess, a red orange. But as you can see, the intensity goes away and it starts to get more of a neutral grayish color. Even though it still has a hint of reddish here, it's getting, the intensity is lower, and that is what intensity is. And intensity is different than value because, I'll show you real quick, this is how intensity looks. Intensity is in a different range due to the fact that, here we go, intensity is a different range and it doesn't deal with black and whites. As you can see here, this is a neutralizing gray. As you get closer, these colors start to get more neutral. Like if you compare this color with this one, then they change. They become more neutral. So this orange, you can see, compared to this one, the one closer to the center is more neutral. I'm gonna move it real quick and show you the difference here. So, oh crap. So say if I just move this one, I'm going to place it over that other orange. Holy moly, look at that! That's a big difference! But then, like, you know, you can still see it's a little bit tint of orange when you compare it to the gray here. You can still see it's not. Isn't that wild? Whoa, man, my mind's blown! Mind warp, I'm freaking out, I'm on acid and drugs. LSD trip. So this right here, it's really crazy because when you can see when it's a completely neutral gray, this color still has an orange tint. Yet, when I move it on the orange, you can see it has a much grayer tint. Yet when I put it back where it was before, it has the grayish orange. So that's very, very, very something important to note when it comes with colors, is that your eye, your mind is constantly being tricked. You have to always keep that in mind when you're doing colors. Like, look at that. That looks like a dark blue when it's on a gray background. But I put that there and holy cow, it looks almost like gray. I can't take it. So it's kind of like one of those. But that's something to very keep in mind. So when you're messing with colors, think of intensity, but also think of the background that these colors are going to be on. And so colors, other colors affect other colors. So here's the big question now. How do I get this red to be this darker gray? Well, there's two ways to do it. One is you can just keep adding a neutral gray, and I'll just add it like a very neutral gray here. Let me try. So adding a neutral gray, as you can see, I'm mixing in gray. So this, as you can see, this gray color that's right there, it's a very, very diluted gray. But just by mixing a very simple amount of gray, it starts to bring the color's intensity down. As you can see, so the red right now is a lot more faded. And you can do it with other colors like, but that's one way you can do it. So keep gray in mind. One important note, please understand this. This is muy importante. This is very important, is that if you want to change the intensity of a color, do not add white or black. Because white or black, that's a mistake that I've made a lot. And it's kind of tricky to understand at first. But white or black, like if I'm adding white to this, what the hell's going on? So what happens is if you add white, the mixture, it just changes in terms of the value. The value of the color itself is changing. I'm mixing it with white, same with purple. It's not changing the intensity, rather it's changing the value. Same if I just add black, as you can see the value is changing. And value changes it differently than just adding gray. So value, once again, that's just to point out, if you want to change the intensity, you want to either use gray, but there's also one more trick in terms of changing the intensity, and that is you can use the complementary. So what complementary colors are, they're colors opposite on the color wheel. So yellow and purple are complementary, red and green are complementary, orange and blue, they're the colors that are opposites. You also have split complementary, tongue twister, split complementaries, which are yellow and either blue violet or yellow and red violet. These are the colors that are right next to the complementary on the color wheel. Those are split complementaries. But what you can do is by just adding a little bit of the complementary. So say with this reddish here, if I add just a little green, like I'm going to use very little amount, like that much. Say if I add a little bit of green, by mixing this green in, the intensity starts to go down. And to be honest with you, I don't think the program does it as good as real paints would do it. But let's see. Let's say if I mix red with the green. If I mix red, oh, there we go. There we go. See that? Whoa! By mixing the complementary, which is red, the colors intensity starts to decrease. You don't have that as bright, that as intense green as before. It starts to decrease. So that's another way you can mix. So just mess around with colors in terms of intensity. Mess around with, mixing complementaries to get this intensity. But moving on now, that we understand that better. Okay, so moving on, I want to do one more demonstration of intensity, because intensity and value is what changes your color. This is your basic hue once again, your yellow hue, and remember, all you can do to that color is you can make it brighter. You can add white like that, and it'll make the color lighter, but that's only changing the value. So just once again, keep that in mind. I'm going to show you right now what's going on. So say, for example, actually, so right here what we have is the hue yellow, but I did an intensity wheel. I basically kept adding excuse me, I kept adding more gray to this yellow, and as you can see, it's neutralizing it. But what's going on is, even though this is a grayish, it still has a tint of yellow. Like the eye can't really tell right now, but it still follows that same yellow hue until you get the gray. And what I want to point out is that when you compare this, let's say now I'm going to show you another wheel. When you compare this to value, look at the difference. That is value. That is if you made yellow and you kept added white to it. That is what value is. So when you see the difference,